Hi, I'm Linda. Glad to have you back. Today I just finished another painting. I'm calling this the Old Settler's Home. It has a lot of colors in here in the barn and the roof. Some grasses, an old rickety fence. But it's fairly simple. I think you can follow this one along pretty good. So if you can pause and paint, follow me. Let's get started. And here are the oil paints I used. Liquid clear, liquid white, titanium white, black, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, Van Dyke brown, burnt sienna, sap green, yellow ochre, cad yellow, and red. And I have etched out on plain canvas the shape of a barn, shed, or whatever you want to put there. I just etched it out with a pencil, and so now I just put on some liquid white halfway down, and so now I'm putting phthalo blue and white with a touch of red because it's a little bit on the lavender side but not totally. It's darker on the corners, and just work my way across. Just work that in, circular motions, buff it out. Now around my little building there, I've taken some sap green with a touch of white and yellow, very light. I'm tapping in some foliage on the right side of that little homestead. And that's a little bit darker sap green and yellow. I'm just putting the background is behind the porch. That's a little porch there, and that's just going to be dark grass back there. So that's why you see that dark along the side. And so then I'm just going to continue across fairly straight, just dotting in some little bushes. It doesn't have to be fancy. You're just laying in the groundwork for some distant foliage and a few trees. Now I'm taking a little bit of darker, it's Van Dyke brown with a little touch of black. I want it dark. Those are going to be trees back there in the distance, so I'm just tapping really lightly. It's so far away, but so it's not real detailed. But I'm just brushing up along the edge of the grasses. Now I'm putting in some trees, a little taller in the back, just very light touches. And just putting in indications of faraway trees back there. Just dotting them in. Now you can make them a little darker with some Van Dyke brown, touch of black, just the groundwork for some trees and background. I'll be putting some foliage, lighter colors over the top of this. This is just the base colors. Just dot them in there. So now I'm etching out the front of the homestead with black, just lightly etching out the door and the window, just going around it. So you know where the door and the window is and the side of the building. Just filling that in. Now alongside the left side of the little house there, I'm just putting in some light distant trees, same colors, but we started there with the sap green, a little touch of yellow, just very light distant trees. And you can get a little darker at the base there with some Van Dyke with a touch of black, just just darker color underneath those lighter background trees. It's really just a base color, just tapping in some little bushes. And I'm adding just a touch of red, little tiny bit of burnt sienna where the grass is going to meet there. The other side, I'm putting in Van Dyke brown, a little bit of very light green in there, just hardly any color at all. Just want to make. So now I'm going into the house there, and I filled in the side with the light, medium to dark gray, and I made the door black, and I'm filling in that other little area there, the space between the posts. I'm making that same color, a really dark gray, and that's black with a little touch of white. So I'm just filling that all down to the bottom of the house. I'm etching out, going on this side of the post. There's a post in there. Filling that black in. I'm going to leave a little light area there for that middle post. Just go all the way to the bottom of the building there. So now I'm putting the far right post, black, just coming down to the ground there. I'll straighten out the roof a little bit. I'm going to put the corner roof piece in. I'm going to fill that in with the black. Making sure that you got a nice point in there. And then just fill it in. And take a little bit of the light gray and just start on the roof line, very light gray. Just etching that out. And there's two pieces of that roof. There's a first layer and second layer. And so now I'm putting in a little black area that actually is kind of a gnarly hole in the roof. And you'll see how cool that looks after I put the panel in. It'll look really nice. See how the roof is divided? Okay, divided with a black line across. And fill that light gray on top. The bottom half is a little darker gray. Just a little darker. And I'm going to go around that little black area. I'm not going to cover that up. Just kind of push that paint in. Now I'm adding a little burnt sienna for those roof tiles. They're kind of rusty. So a little burnt sienna with a touch of Van Dyke brown. It's just gonna etch a little of that in there. I'm gonna create some panels. It'll be light and dark, but I'll put that rusty color in there because it's old. It's old and it's a tin roof and it's rusty. So I'm making some little lines in the bottom half of that roof, giving it some character. Creating some lines. Now I'm moving to the bottom and I'm etching out my door, making it a little bit darker gray and black. And eventually I will go around it with a light gray. So now I'm going to put some little color in this foreground here. This looks kind of wild, so I'll have some fun with it. I'm just pushing in some color. It's burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and a little touch of yellow. Just scribble it in there. And at the bottom here I'm using some Van Dyke brown with a little touch of sap green and yellow, dark. Just laying the groundwork for some color, for some grassies that are going to have some underneath color under there. Kind of a unique way of doing it. But just scribble it in there. Some dark brown, Van Dyke brown with a little black up there, and a little green. Burnt sienna, just scribble it all in there. I even put red. There's some red in there, but you'll see it's really going to look really nice. And it doesn't have to be any certain angles, just whatever. Upward, sidewards. Okay, now I'm taking a clean, dry 1 inch, and you have to wipe off each time. Tap it in your towel so you don't have a lot of that. It's called dirt. And you don't want a lot of that extra color going up. You want to keep it fairly smooth, buffed out. And right up underneath that little homestead there, put a little green. So now I'm taking a fan brush, and normally I flick upward to make my grassies, but I'm going to scrape downwards, and you'll see how I do this. You go up and then down. It makes the neatest little strokes of grass. I always went upward, but I saw somebody do this, and it's kind of cool how it works. You can really create some neat shapes just going the opposite way. So I'm just pushing downward, keeping the angle of the lay of the land there. And you see I did add a little tree in the back. Not very tall, just a little something in there. Okay, so now I'm taking the corner edge of my fan brush with some very, very light gray, and just pulling down and making some little boards on that homestead. And then I'm taking a clean dry, and I'm just kind of softening it up, going in between, softening those lines. Now I'll do it again here, a little more paint, just a little bit. Don't have to have a lot of pressure. And you can put a little yellow in that, very soft yellow. But it's just very light underneath the window. I'm taking a small brush and just creating some little boards in there, some lines. You can add as much. I'm going along the very side of the building, edge of the building. I believe there's a post there, so I'll be putting in a lighter color for the post. Very light gray. And some extra little boards there above the window. And I'm putting a little lighter color on that back post, the very last post there on the right. And I put in some little wood arms that go up to the roof line. Okay, so now I'm creating a pathway. Taking a little bit of the dark Van Dyke brown, just tapping in some dirt. It's overgrown there, so just lifting upward, you'll get those grassies. I'm not going the opposite direction on the path for little grassies. I'm pushing upward, leaving some of those little dark areas in there. And I'm in the sap green with a little tiny touch of yellow, just a little here and there. I'm creating some grasses, lifting up. I'm going to finish out to the edge of the canvas, but not on the bottom part. I'll leave that rather sparse because it's overgrown grasses. So now I'm going to put in some posts. They're not going to be real fancy, they're going to be rather thin, but I'm going just up to underneath the tree line. I don't want to go any higher than that tree line, but just pulling down some Van Dyke brown, a little black. Now I'll be highlighting those in a little bit with a little bit of light color on the inside of them. Not going to be very many. I'm just going to put maybe 3. Okay, here's the second one there, just underneath the tree line. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but or fat. I want it rather thin. And then this next little one that I'm going to do, because it's farther in the distance, it's kind of on the bend of that path. Just going to go up, not quite to the bottom of the door, and off to the left a little bit, because I don't want it to interfere with that. It's not a door, it's the opening of the porch there. Just make it shorter, it'll look farther away, and add a little bit of an angle. because it's an old fence. I'm putting some crossbars, piece of wood, just so I'll go just above that one, just to give it a little interest. It's not in the same spot as the other one, just a little bit higher. And just make sure it's fairly straight. Now this next one is going to go just below that. That makes it look natural. I'm going to put a little bit of highlights on that. Just a little bit of soft yellow and white. You know, I almost see a finished painting here. I really like doing this one. I hope you did too. So if you'd like to see more, click the like button, follow, and until then, God bless and happy painting.